Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I take a deep dive into somebody else's perspective on movies. And back at it again is one of my SiftPop pals, Nash. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me again. I had such a good time last time. I basically had to beg to be back on.
Hey, this is a relatively quick turnaround because I was trying to catch up with some people that hadn't been on in a while. And I just had this week's episode was my friend JoJo as we were recording. This came out today. She literally was on like 102 episodes later.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, I've done like 120 some episodes of this.
Yeah. So, I think I just caught you at the right time because we had our discussion about War Horse maybe a month and a half ago. And so I was able to kind of bend your ear and convince you. But yeah, no, I'm excited to be back.
But Nash, where can people find you? What would you like to shamelessly plug for our viewers?
I would say, I contribute over at SiftPop. I'll direct anybody over there. I think there's a lot of good stuff over there. I don't necessarily write a lot of it, but I've made a lot of friends with the writers over there. So, and you'll occasionally see something from me. And if you want to see my thoughts on movies, you can follow me on Nash_Doll on Letterboxd. That's where I watch hundreds of movies a year, and you can see me babble incessantly about what I think about each one of them.
One of my favorite things to do is hop on the Letterboxd and just see the little ticker of what all your friends were watching.
Yep.
And it's always interesting because you know something's big because then like 6, 7, 8 people recorded it all in like the same day.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's always interesting seeing what people are catching up on. And I imagine, I don't know from experience because like I don't pop up on my own ticker, but I'm imagining sometimes it's just like, what the hell is that?
Oh, those are my favorite. Like just to see a person that you know pretty well, you follow them enough, and then they're just watching this obscure. What do you do? Those are my absolute, and I definitely am that to other people with my like random. So it's one of my favorite activities to read into people's lives.
I imagine that a couple people felt that way today because I just got through a bunch of random screeners that I had, and
nice.
Some of them, I think one of them wasn't even on Letterboxd. It was at that point.
Wow.
Because that exists. There are movies that aren't on Letterboxd, and I wind up watching them. I'm like, well, I know I just dove into a black hole somewhere.
You are actually one of the people. We're on Letterboxd now, and we can probably get the show started. But there was like a prompt or something on Twitter a few weeks ago where they were asking like, "Oh, how many movies have you like watched this year? Or you logged?" And a lot of people were in the comments, and I watch a lot of movies in a given year. Like I'm approaching 600, probably won't pass 600, but that's a personal best. And I would say that the vast majority of the people were underneath me because they're sane individuals who, participate in other activities. But then there would be the people who had like 12, 1,300. And I was like, how are you doing that? But I realized it was probably like people like you watching, like watch it for more of a like career-based thing, or for you get screeners, you probably log your short films and all that stuff.
Which is funny because like the only things that I log on Letterboxd are new releases. So like I don't log everything that I watch, only because I really only use Letterboxd to keep track of the new stuff that I watch. But like I did just crack 700 new releases for this year.
That's, oh my God.
And yes, there are that many films that come out. I still have I keep track and I have like a spreadsheet, and there's still like 650 on there. I'm just like, the world of cinema is insane. And I have a full-time job and other things. And it's just like, I'm married. Like I have a life, but I watch a lot of movies. And I have a very understanding wife. So there we go. But like, yeah, I can't imagine watching like 1,300 movies and just being like, that's even a lot for me.
It's got to be like in the background when you're working, or it's like I said, literally your job to,
Yeah.
might write lists or something. I don't know. But
I don't know what my life would look like, if this is my full-time job.
yeah.
It would be that. It would be insane. But it's funny, as you were saying that, I'm like, I just imagine that like little monkey in the spacesuit meme that's just like, you're just minding my own business and people's like talking about me somewhere.
Yep.
But now, time to get to some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nash, what is a previously released film that you're most excited to check out that you haven't seen yet?
Yeah. I'm assuming this will come out in December still. But we're recording
in
December.
1 week as we record this.
And, the holidays are upon us. So I decided to dedicate one of these questions to a holiday movie. Without getting into a lot of like weirdly personal stuff. Yeah, I didn't really celebrate like holidays as a kid. And so it was like, as an adult, I came into holidays. And so I didn't really watch. I didn't have like a tradition to watch a lot of these like quintessential holiday movies or Christmas movies. Now I've caught, like, obviously I caught some of them just because like TBS always airs A Christmas Story and Elf would be on, or I actually think I may have seen Elf in theaters. But so I've caught some of them, but there was like a lot of classic ones that I had never seen. And this year I like really wanted to make an effort to cross like the bigger ones off. And so recently I watched Miracle on 34th Street for the first time. It's great. Recently I watched White Christmas for the first time. It's great. And I would say that probably what I would say is the biggest of the three that I was told I need to wait till a little bit closer to Christmas was It's a Wonderful Life. I have not seen It's a Wonderful Life. Based on those two movies, which I thought were great, I am really excited to watch It's a Wonderful Life. And from what I've heard, just because I've existed in the movie space, I know roughly some like elements. I've seen scenes from it just from videos. I think it's a little bit of a darker Christmas movie. There's some like morose nature to it, which I have come to gravitate towards too in like these holiday season movies. Like, you see a lot of cheer and yay Christmas, which is valid, but I think there's a kind of a darker undertone to Christmas a lot of the times for a lot of people, and I'm excited to see that in a movie. And so that's like kind of at the top of my list of like, I'm really excited to see this movie. Obviously it came out 70 years ago or whatever, but yeah, and I thought I would keep it holiday theme for the first question, so that's where
I appreciate that. And it took me until my senior year of college to watch It's a Wonderful Life for the first time, because that was not a Christmas tradition in my house. We mostly just watched, Christmas Story was on literally 24 hours on Christmas. I watched it actually doing research for my senior thesis, which was a business education, how film has changed our society's outlook on business. And George Bailey's one of the few good guy businessmen in all the film, because there's like 5. So that was the hardest thing, trying to find the good ones for that research. But I watched the Muppet Christmas Carol every single year on Christmas for like almost my whole entire life.
I'm watching that this week.
Nice.
I have a friend of mine who is the biggest Christmas Carol fan of all time. And when I say that, I mean every single version of that he will watch. And I think there's like 11 or 12 of them. And so he showed me his personal favorite this past weekend, which was good. But then he's like, okay, well then the next best one I feel like is the Muppet Christmas Carol. So I can add that one too. I'm also excited to watch that. I didn't watch a lot of Muppet stuff, but from what I've seen, it's great.
Yeah, I'm probably annoying to watch it with because I do sing all the songs along with it. and especially Marley and Marley by Statler Waldorf, which is a classic. It's amazing.
All right.
Now, flipping the question here, is a film that hasn't released yet that you're most excited to check out?
And this will a little bit touch on the question a little bit later. I love, well, obviously I love movies, but I know there's a lot of people who are like trailer adverse. I love trailers, and trailers almost across the board will get me excited for movies. So like I have a general level of excitement for so many movies. So this one is hard to whittle down. So I'm just gonna kind of rapid fire a few. I'm kind of out on I would say for a long time, I would say an MCU movie would be in this list, but I'm kind of out on the MCU right now. So I think Barbie is my number one movie that I'm excited for next year. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-show, but obviously you have Greta Gerwig tackling something incredibly interesting. Like you have an incredible cast of established stars in Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, and then some like up and coming stars with two people from Sex Education, which is a show I love on Netflix. Emma Mackey and Ncuti Gatwa, who I think are blowing up now. I just think it's going to be a really cool movie. I'm excited for the trailer to come out just so we can get a little bit of the vibe, but the images are beautiful and funny. So I would say that's probably my number one most anticipated movie. Dune Part 2, though, is really close behind it because Denis Villeneuve is probably my favorite working, like, active director right now. I generally don't think he's missed. I love Dune Part 1. I don't see how it, it's one of those things where I'm not super familiar with Dune, so maybe there's going to be people who are let down by it. But I feel like for the type of moviegoer I am, it's an open and shut case that he's going to create an incredible movie. So I'd say like that's like 1A, 1B in terms of films that I'm really excited for coming to theaters in the new year.
Those are two exciting picks, and I remember when they announced Barbie for the first time, I'm just like, what? And then
it sounds ridiculous when you hear about it.
So ridiculous. But you know what? Some of the most ridiculous sounding movies turn out to be amazing. So
absolutely.
And I do agree that I feel like Dune Part 2 is a safe choice for like, this is going to be great. Denis Villeneuve is going to knock this out of the park. It's a big year, and maybe Villeneuve will get that director nomination that he didn't get last time.
Yeah.
He's gonna both of them, Greta Gerwig and Villeneuve, are gonna have a tough competition.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Scorsese's coming out. I think Wes Anderson's coming out with something. Like a lot of the prestige. I think Fincher might have something. I just feel like a lot of the prestige guys are coming out with stuff next year, so it's gonna be rough,
It's gonna be a murderer's row of who's gonna get nominated for best director.
It's felt like, and I don't know if it has anything to do with the COVID of it all, or if it's just been how things have shaken out time-wise, but 2022, 2023, I feel like we have been incredibly gifted with some of these like all-time greats or like current greats releasing or going to be releasing films, and it's like all concurrent. Like we mentioned some of them. Obviously, we had Peele this year and Spielberg this year. Like it's just like these huge, and a lot of them are great movies too. So we're really blessed right now with people, in the twilights of their career, probably are giving us some of their best work.
Which this isn't quite remake, so this might not quite be the best segue. But Spielberg, they did announce his next film, which is going to be a Bullet, I guess. I don't know if you're going to call it a sequel or not, but it's just another Bullet story, Frank Bullet story with Bradley Cooper. And, we get a lot of remakes at this point. But Nash, what's a film you actually want to see remade?
Yeah, this is the real answer is I don't want to see any remakes. You know, if you want to give me kind of a rebranded thing like Bullet might catch the gray area a little bit. It's still a little bit of like, okay, Spielberg, why are you making this choice? But it's fine. You know, I think he's, you know, his last couple movies have been, in my opinion, incredible. So it's like he's gained a lot of that trust back. I was talking about it with a movie friend of mine that his pairing with Tony Kushner, I feel like has fixed him a little bit or helped him focus a little bit. So yeah, and so I had to dig deep, and I have said, like, the Disney live action remakes generally pissed me off. Because it seems like they keep going back to remake movies that are perfect or borderline perfect animated movies. You know, Lion King, you have The Little Mermaid coming out soon, which, you know, all the garbage aside, I just don't like, Beauty and the Beast. Like, well, I don't know why we have to remake these movies that nominated for Best Picture. Like, these are incredible films. That said, I have been in support of some of the live action remakes of movies that were not very good. And the biggest one that pops to mind is Pete's Dragon is an unwatchable animated movie. In my opinion, I think I grew up on it and then I watched it again as an adult and it is garbage. And the live action version of that movie is very good. It's underrated. It's underseen. Nobody talks about it when people talk about, you know, the good ones or whatever. I'm like, because they change a lot of the story, honestly, because a lot of it's so stupid.
Yeah.
But it's done really, really well. So I was like, okay, well, maybe something in that vein. So and honestly, these are not as bad as, I shouldn't have even said Pete's Dragon, because these are not as bad as Pete's Dragon. But I was thinking, I think a live action Atlantis, The Last Empire, could be really interesting. And I remember there were weird fan castings that went around for a long time for Milo. And it always kind of got me excited. I mean, that came out in like Disney's low period where not a lot of people seem to watch those movies, like that and Treasure Planet. Both movies that I think could be, because not a lot of people saw them, could be adapted well and be really interesting fantasy live action movies that, you know, the template's pretty much there and the template works. And I think it would sell. So while I don't love remakes, I think I would be okay with seeing those. Sorry, talked a lot there.
It's all good. And I think Atlantis would be very interesting. And they would totally cast Timothée Chalamet just because him or Tom Holland, one of the two of them would get cast in that movie if they did it. It's a very interesting time period for Disney. And I appreciate you bringing up Pete's Dragon because I love Pete's Dragon, the remake. Oh my God, David Lowery did something special with that. That is such an interesting choice of a director. The man who made A Ghost Story and The Green Knight brought so much magic to that. And Jungle Book, I'm probably going to get some hate for this, but like the original Jungle Book is 75 minutes of just randomness.
Yeah, and people who have that movie high, I'm like, you have that movie high because there are scenes that are memorable. You have the King Louis sequence, which is like fun. You have Baloo's song, which is fun. Like, I randomly will shout Bagheera because of Baloo yelling Bagheera's name in his face, but the movie's not. It's just kind of it's fine.
Yeah, and they remade it, and I love that movie. And what an inspired choice to make a giant gangster, giantificus, Christopher Walken coming up here as King Louis. Man cub, have the papaya. Like that sequence was thrilling and scary, honestly. And like they shot him like Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. And it's just like it was an inspired choice, and like that's what Disney needs to do. But you know, they do the other ones because they make a crap ton of money, and which is why we're getting Little Mermaid, we're getting Hercules. I'm waiting for them to do their Tarzan, which like I don't think we need another live action Tarzan movie.
Oh man, I saw that. That was Christoph Waltz.
That was bland as hell.
Oh my god, we can go on. Jaimin Hunsu, I adore Jaimin Hunsu. I think he is one of the most wasted actors in Hollywood because he gets all these bit parts in horrible movies, and he's the best part of all of the movies usually. And he and Christoph Waltz are the only things I remember from the movie. Christoph Waltz, because I'm like, you're a good actor and you keep showing up in bad movies and you're bad. And Jaimin is, you're the best part of all these movies. Please be in a good, please lead, somebody give you a lead role. Like, I saw Blood Diamond, you're incredible in Blood Diamond.
Just like you show up for like less than 5 minutes in A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yeah.
Deserve better. Now, Nash, what's your fondest memory of going to the movies?
This is probably maybe one of the most personal things that I'll answer on this question. And I don't know, and I honestly don't really know why. Like, I see a lot of movies in the theaters. I try to see as many movies as I can in the theaters. And I'm really lucky because I see movies by myself all the time, which for a long time people thought was weird. And I don't think it's very weird because you're just sitting in silence anyways. And I see movies in the middle of the week at like right after work with like not huge audiences. So I generally have a lot of really I'm able to engage with movies a lot. So I have a lot of things I could say for this, but something that has stuck with me ever since this movie came out and is maybe one of the most profound experiences I've ever experienced in my life, for like a bigger reason than just, oh, I'm watching this movie, is I watched A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. The movie, obviously, it's a dramatic biopic but there's like elements that are fudged with Tom Hanks. Now, going into this movie, I have to kind of establish my mindset of, it's an odd time because this movie's coming out a year after the documentary, which was great, about Fred Rogers. So there's a little bit of me that's like, okay, well, what could this possibly do that documentary didn't already do? We're also getting Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers, who Tom Hanks is America's dad. Everybody loves Tom Hanks, but Tom Hanks is like latter part of his career has a lot of peaks and valleys. Even this year, like we can look at this year, he's giving 2 insane performances in whatever you want to think about the Elvis movie and then the Zemeckis movie. Like, so I remember going into the movie with like some trepidation. And first of all, I think the movie's great. And I don't know if a lot of people think that, but there is a sequence in that movie. I think it's towards the beginning of the third act, where the reporter, played by Matthew Rhys, and Mr. Rogers go out to like breakfast in a diner, and they're having, it's a pretty heated conversation about like his father and about forgiving people. And Fred Rogers asks him to like sit in silence and think about the people who love you and the people you love. And I'm like almost getting emotional now. And for 1 minute of screen time, you don't hear anything. And a minute's not that long, but in a movie theater, when you're sitting and watching a movie, people get 15 seconds into like, and people start, like, what is going on? Generally. And there were probably about 20, 25 people in the theater. Like, it wasn't packed, but it was one of the most communal experiences I've ever experienced in life, where for that minute, nobody was making a sound. There wasn't a rustle. Nobody was like moving. Nobody was eating. No, none of these like minor sounds that you can sometimes pick up on in like the dead quiet moments of a movie. Everybody was so connected to the moment. And like, I didn't realize none of that stuff was happening until after the fact. And I was like pretty emotional during it. And then sound starts again, and you kind of, there's a little bit of a trance break, and you might hear something. I think I might have heard something. And I realized that I was like, holy crap, we as like a community of 25 people just experienced something together. And it's like, maybe somebody was asleep or whatever. They were too scared to make a noise, but it was the most I've ever felt, where it was like a borderline spiritual moment of that it was a really powerful moment that was executed perfectly. And I don't think I've talked about this a lot with people, and other people did not experience this. So I don't know. It was just something about how that movie hit me when that moment comes, the bravery to try that moment in a movie when you know as a director that people are just going to talk through that or eat or do whatever, but it's going to connect to a certain group of people, and you're going to have 1 minute of just, it's going to be freaking silence. It's the most beautiful moment. It was one of the most beautiful moments I've ever experienced with a group of people. And it's one of the most poignant moments I've ever experienced in a theater. And I'm sorry, this is a really rambly answer, but like I said, that's kind of where my head went. So yeah, sorry about that. But yes, that's kind of my answer there. I don't know if you even remember the moment.
Oh, I remember that film a lot, because I remember sitting in that theater, because one, I did see Won't You Be My Neighbor, and was blown away. That documentary was great. And screw you, Academy, for not even acknowledging it. Didn't even get nominated. And then A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and I didn't know what to expect from it, to be honest. And the opening scene of, like, I'm like, Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. Mm-hmm. And then that opening scene happens, and I'm just like, it is Fred Rogers. Yeah. And there, like, something about Tom Hanks just clicked. And the whole entire film is that, because this isn't his story.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Somebody else's experience being affected by him.
Which is the best possible way you could have made the movie.
Because we didn't need the mystique to be broken. The mystique was intact, and it worked wonders. And every moment he's on screen is magnetic. I remember when he's like, "And our friend."
Yeah.
And he pulls down the picture, and you just see Matthew Reese's face just disheveled. And I'm just like, I felt something like real hard in that moment. I'm just like, what am I getting into with this movie?
Yeah.
And that movie was something else. And so, like, I completely get it. It profoundly was able to affect you. And there's no wonder Tom Hanks got his first Oscar nomination in 20 years with that. Because something special. But he also ran into, like, a giant brick wall of nominees that year. Because, like, we didn't even get Willem Dafoe for The Lighthouse, which a lot of people were pulling for, because we got Pesci and Pacino, both for The Irishman, Anthony Hopkins for Two Popes.
Well, and the other one too. Both Popes got nominated.
Well, yeah, Jonathan Pryce was lead, though.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then Brad Pitt. Like, that was a long time coming. Pitt got that Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, playing, one of the two leads, but whatever. So all kinds of fun stuff with that. Just like how Michelle Williams might win be up there for Best Actress this year for playing the mother of the main character of the movie. But whatever, in The Fabelmans. But that's the Academy, and they have a long history of that crap. But he really, like, Fred Rogers really is the supporting piece in this film, because it isn't about him. It's about his effect on people.
Yeah.
And we experience it through this Matthew Reeves character. And wow, if you haven't seen A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, check it out, please. I just talked about a movie that completely exceeded my expectations. Nash, what's a film that exceeded yours?
Yeah, I have a lot of these because I see a lot of movies, and it's impossible to go into a movie without expectations. Mm-hmm. And it's the best feeling in the world when something can kind of defy them. And I kind of ran the gamut a little bit of movies that I either expected to be bad or I just didn't expect to be as good as they were. And I'll start with the latter first. I watched Dog Day Afternoon for the first time this year. A movie that I've heard about, I've seen images from, I've heard quotes from. I knew it was going to be great. But that movie, another one that had it was immediately I was like, oh, okay, this is an all-timer performance it's an all-timer movie. It's an all-timer performance from Pacino. Is it John Casale?
Yeah, he's in it as well.
And also that is what led me on the goose chase of his career, which is perhaps one of the unfortunately sad but incredible careers of anybody in the movie business, where he was in 5 movies and every single one of them was nominated for Best Picture.
Yep.
So that was a movie I saw this year that I was expecting to be good. And in terms of first time watches in general this year, it's top 3 for me. Just weirdly I was not expecting the progressive elements of that movie, like the LGBTQ plus elements of that movie. Just a lot of empathy, I don't know where people fall on this, but some kind of anti-establishment, the police aren't necessarily shown in the best light. And just for the 70s era, it makes sense actually considering movies that are coming out that time, but I don't know. I went into it thinking, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a good movie, and it blew my socks off. And then I'll go the other direction. I watch a lot of the Netflix original movies, most of which meet my expectations. But there was a movie that's called I Used to Be Famous, and I think you have seen this movie when I checked my letterbox. And I was just expecting another kind of run-of-the-mill Netflix movie, and instead I thought it was really heartfelt, and it exceeded my expectations in all the best possible ways. It's a movie about music, which can go both ways. You have something like Sing Street, which I think is a beautiful, perfect film.
Yeah.
And you have so many of these garbage, just this doesn't make sense, or the music that they wrote for the movie is bad. But it was just it has Ed Skrein, who I think probably is maybe most notable for being the villain in Deadpool. Yeah. And he has a villain face, which makes him, which I love, because he's cast kind of against type as this ex boy band member who's trying to reinvent himself. He's playing gigs on the street, and then this teenage boy who is on the spectrum walks up to him and starts drumming with him, and it's just this kind of buddy movie as they have this blossoming friendship and understanding. And I just wanted to highlight Netflix can make good movies too sometimes. Not just you go in with oh, this is going to be a 2.5 star movie, and I was like, man, I I had a really great time. This is an hour and a half of like really good music, really compelling storytelling, good performances. It looks great. It doesn't look like your kind of normal glossy sheen of a movie. I also think that British movies in this kind of caliber often have a little bit of an edge, like they have something figured out. But yeah, so I just wanted to highlight those two movies of like they're totally different spectrums, but that's kind of where my taste lies. Movies that kind of blew me away.
That's a nice little hidden gem.
Yeah, and
check
exactly.
out.
You were the only person. I was just looking. You were the only person on Letterboxd I follow, and I follow a couple hundred people that has watched I Used to Be Famous. So this is just me saying, hey, if you like kind of good feel good movies, there's a music element to it with some, I check it out. It's free on, watch it on Netflix if you have.
We know you have access to it.
Yeah.
From somebody. So now this one's always a tricky question because I don't know how big of a reader most people are.
Mm-hmm.
But Nash, what's a written work that you would love to see adapted into a film?
Up until very recently, well, I used to read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped reading. Movies kind of took over that, and then I started again because I realized how much I love reading. And I think there's a Stephen King quote like, "I want to be a writer," and he's like, "You can't write if you don't read." And so I took that to heart. Up until recently, though, my answer would have been readapting the Percy Jackson series or the His Dark Materials series. Because I loved both of those. One of them is definitely skewed more towards a YA audience, while His Dark Materials, I legitimately is like, this could be, this is prestige. And both were done so poorly in movie format that I was like, we needed to do these better. But we have a Disney Plus show coming that I think, is great for Percy Jackson. And the HBO show, I really like it. It's really faithful. Not anybody's watching it, but so I pivoted.
And we'll be watching it when we're done recording tonight because there's new episode.
So I pivoted, and I had a brain blast moment of I have no idea how this could be pulled off, if it possibly could be pulled off. I mean, it could be. It would just be whether or not it could be adapted. But I was the biggest Calvin and Hobbes fan growing up, and I think that there is a universe where we could get a Calvin and Hobbes something. And I was actually discussing this just recently, that like newer Peanuts movie that came out that nobody watched, that I thought was genuinely quite good.
Yeah.
So there's a precedent for making good movies. I don't know if anybody would watch it, but I think that it's a very compelling, funny comic book. So yeah,
I could see it happening in two ways. One, how Apple is adapting Charlie Brown, which is occasionally putting out like a 35-40 minute short film, which I know they came out with a couple this year. Those are a couple of my favorite little gems that popped up on the Apple TV Plus screeners room, because I'm like, I had no idea they're coming out. I'm like, ooh, little Charlie Brown movies. And I watched them. And another way is how Disney Plus is handling Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where it's like every so often they're releasing like an hour and 15-minute movie adaptation and animation. They're not worried about making this like a hour 45-minute thing to throw out in theaters, but it's a nice short to the point adaptation of these books for kids, and pretty faithful animation to like the drawing style. It's goofy, it's weird looking, everybody looks a little grotesque, but like I just imagine it's like these, I feel like that would work on one of the streaming services, because I feel like some of them have already kind of clicked into that wavelength of like, this doesn't have to be like a 2-hour movie and plop in a theater. We could just put this on streaming and make it as long as it needs to be. And then people enjoy it.
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that is probably more serialized like that, but just like reflecting on it. I mean, I still own them. I'm looking at them right now. There's a lot of cross-generational humor. A lot of stuff that, you know, plays really well today. I think you could do like when he's in his imagination and like his space cadet stuff for like, I think that would be really great. And then just the kind of buddy aspect of it all. I just think, I think there's something there.
I feel like Apple, like I feel like that has Apple TV Plus written all over it.
And I would trust them to do really well with it because they have a good track record, in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially with like the Peanut stuff, I think they're doing some really good, genuine things because like all the like the Snoopy show, the Charlie Brown show, all the short films that they're doing feel like Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Snoopy in space feels like Charlie Brown. Obviously, they're exploring a little bit more into that, but like it feels genuine. Now, shifting to the last couple of questions, which are a little bit more specific about different aspects of the film experience, but talking about trailers, Nash, what's your favorite?
This one, another brutal like haymaker question. I don't think I really have one. I was not a movie like trailer watcher as a kid, and then I shifted to now I watch every single movie for anything that comes out. And I've watched some like classic trailers, but I feel like I can't really say those. So I was really wrapping my head around it because I was like, what is a trailer that has particularly crossed the boundary of reminder? And I have a few. Logan.
Hurt myself.
Yeah. Which is perhaps top tier, like S tier use of a song in a trailer. What they show in that trailer is great. The depiction of Logan, like I think probably saw that trailer 100 times before movies. Never got old. I wanted to see it.
Getting goosebumps now just thinking about it.
I did a lot of rewatching for that. Like this is the question I did the most prep for. I probably rewatched 75 odd trailers. And that was the one that like you just said, literally gives you chills. It's the perfect marriage of a song and then I got back to this isn't necessarily one of my all-time favorite trailers, but it captures a purity that doesn't exist anymore within this subculture. And that is The Force Awakens. And I just like to say, think back to when that trailer comes out. Aside from animated stuff, like people have not seen a Star Wars thing since 2005, a Star Wars movie.
Yep.
You know, this is pre all Disney Plus. This is pre all these now shows. And at the time, I know that there was still the grumpy people who were finicky and bad, but like, there was a purity to that moment of people gathering and watching that trailer and getting excited for that, for the future of Star Wars, for the like bringing back, like Harrison Ford's coming back, Chewie's coming back, Leia's coming back. Like before all that stuff became really heavy-handed in the future of Star Wars, and you have all this bad discourse about The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker and Boba Fett and all this stuff. Star Wars is like, talking about Star Wars now online is now a cesspool, but yeah. That trailer captured a beautiful moment of Star Wars fans being so excited about the future, their trilogy, like the Youth's trilogy, hopefully recapturing some of the goodwill. And, so I would say that those two are like, in terms of like memorable trailer, but then also a trailer that it was a powerful moment for in a culture, in a subculture that I think is kind of soured a little bit.
100%. Just like, there's been an awakening.
Yeah.
and then like Finn's face comes up and you're just like, oh.
Yeah. And those new characters, like there was just so much promise. Like
The end of that trailer with the Millennium Falcon, and just then Chewie, we're home, and it's just like, oh, got me.
Yeah, trailer made people cry. Like I remember seeing like 45-year-old dudes like crying, and I was like,
I had to have watched that like 5 times in a row, just
yeah,
on repeat, just kept hitting that replay button on YouTube. And God,
it's not often that a trailer becomes something that you like bring people together to watch it, but I watched that with friends in college, like because I was in college. I watched that in my office. There was like 15 people gathered around in the rec sports office where I was working, watching this trailer on the screen. Like, that's an incredible moment. Like, you don't get that with many things anymore.
and we're never going to get it again with Star Wars,
Oh, no,
unless Disney waits like 15 years to actually make another movie, which they can't help themselves.
Yeah, that's
and it makes me really sad that the only thing that I feel like most Star Wars fans come together on now is The Mandalorian. Because it's like, it's not the movies anymore. Can't come together on that, because then everybody's just mad.
I mean, I will say, I think among Star Wars fans who have watched Andor, I think that it's a pretty general consensus that show is very good.
Well, not enough people are talking about it, and yes. I think that's the problem.
Yes.
They literally did the research that people are just not talking about it, because the thing is, it isn't like, oh my God, Cad Bane showed up on this episode. No, it's, oh my God, I think Andy Serkis and Stellan Skarsgård just won a couple Emmys by ripping my heart out in the middle of this episode of Andor.
Yeah, imagine that. You give it to a prestige director and let them freaking cook.
And it's just like, Cassian Andor. And God, that one episode though.
Oh
like,
my.
I thought, like, I didn't think, like, I thought this was done after Andy Serkis did that whole entire speech thing, and then the thing where he's just like, I can't swim. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, chuck my heart out. And then Stellan Skarsgård had that whole entire scene. He's like, I gave everything. And you're just like, holy crap. Like, nobody told me to prepare to be like emotionally devastated this Wednesday. But yeah, I think what hurt Andor is, one, you know, just the nature of it didn't have all the big name characters in it and didn't get people hyped like that. And two, I just think we're in a bad spot with where the fandom is with Star Wars.
Also, the release of it was so unfortunate because there was a period of time, I think I mapped it out. There was a period of time where Andor, Rings of Power, She-Hulk, and House of Dragon were all coming out or had just come out. And you know, what a murder, like just a murderer's row of like this like high level fan content.
If Disney thought about it more, they should have put out like an Obi-Wan during that time.
Oh yeah.
Instead of just serving up Andor to the shadow of freaking dragons and Sauron. Yeah, because like that's basically what happens. It's just like nobody was talking about Andor when you could be sitting there talking, especially because like it was the end of that season of House of Dragons when Andor was first coming out, and you're just like, no, that's where all the buzz is. And I can't believe they had that out at the same time as a Marvel show. Like, I don't think I think they kind of did Andor dirty.
And especially in the age of streaming, like, it doesn't matter when you put out your show anymore, really. It matters in this context of if there's competition, but like I know that like that fall season, there's a lot of new shows that come out because based on broadcast television, that makes sense, right? Back in that era. But in the age of streaming, it doesn't matter. So
No.
you're Disney, okay, I'm gonna have, Moon Knight comes out here, She-Hulk coming out here, Miss Marvel's coming out here, Obi-Wan's coming out here. Like, pace it out. Like, you have gaps in time when you're not releasing anything, and people are gonna watch it.
Now.
Yeah.
Because, like, why not wait until She-Hulk's over to release Andor? And, like, why not wait until House of the Dragon's over to release? Because, like, not gonna lie, I think at this moment, a Marvel show is probably going to get more attention only because you literally have to watch everything. And people are going to. And, like, we're not going to get another Star Wars show until March, right? With Mandalorian season 3. So we're just, what the hell is Disney putting out now? Dead Zone for 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're trying to avoid Last of Us.
But
HBO's coming. That's a big. HBO's been on a roll.
I get it, but like, you put it out at the same time as this show that is a prequel to the biggest show of all time. Like, what do you do? Like, I don't.
Yeah, it's been interesting,
Whatever.
but I wish I wish the Rise of Skywalker trailer got me that excited, but I was just, so many people were in a place with that movie coming out. Like, that was the first Star Wars movie that I didn't go out in like a group to go see. Like, my now wife and I just were like, got back early from Longwood Gardens, and we're just like, for like during Christmas, and just like, do you want to go see Star Wars? Sure. And it's just like, I should never feel that way going to see a Star Wars movie. That just makes me sad. But you can't take how you felt watching Force Awakens trailer for the first time away. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is I just rewatched Phantom Menace last night. And honestly, I've been sick for like the past couple of days, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't have the energy to be like, oh, this frustrates me so much. I just kind of laid there and just enjoyed it for what it is. And it's Star Wars. And, all I can think now, every time Duel of Fates happened, all I could think of is Dave Filoni sitting there being like, this was the duel of the fate of Anakin Skywalker. I'm just like, damn it. Dave Filoni did the commentary on every Star Wars project. I think things would be like 20 times better.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, now we mentioned music and how that could affect a trailer with that Logan trailer, which, that's pitch perfect song choice there. But what's your favorite use of a song in a movie?
I may have misinterpreted this one. I get a lot of music from movies, and there's hundreds of songs I could put in this. So I just picked two that are weird, maybe. The first one was literally my number one on like the Spotify Wrapped thing that came out. It was my number one like in like 2018 when this movie came out. And that is the acoustic version of a-ha's Take On Me from Deadpool 2. Which Take On Me, that song is great. It's legendary. It's like but it's like very anthemic and you're like dancing along to it. It just blew my mind. The acoustic version of that song made it so sad. And it's used in that scene where like it's like time is like slowed down or whatever, and I don't remember a character's name. Marina Baccarin is like dying, and it was a really powerful moment, but it was also just like, this song is incredible. I had no idea this song is so sad, and it became my most listened to song that year. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna throw out a wild card, and I'm gonna say that. Also, I just watched Call Me by Your Name for the first time this week. Good movie, but
music.
The best part of that movie is Sufjan Stevens, and which is not a slight to the movie. It's just that Sufjan is great, and Mystery of Love and Visions of Gideon, I've already listened to like 50 times each, and I watched the movie 4 days ago. Like, they're beautiful songs. They perfectly capture the experiences of the movie, which makes sense because I think both were written for the movie.
Yeah.
Heart-wrenching, beautiful. It's just like, if you want to sum up what that movie makes you feel, just listen to one, if not both of those songs. And
just him staring at the fireplace.
Oh God. Yeah. Perfect. It's perfect.
Perfect.
So I wanted to throw some like wild cards.
Those are some good ones. Like, you know what's funny is I did my Spotify Wrapped, and my number one listened to song was A Man Without Love. Every day I wake up. Yep. Just like, well, somebody watched Moon Knight. And I have to say, though, I did actually know who Engelbert Humperdinck was before I watched Moon Knight.
So did I.
And then it's just like, but damn, that song's a banger.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Because, like, I'm a huge Tom Jones fan, other Welsh famous singer. But then it's just like, wow, I need to listen to more Engelbert Humperdinck because, like, this song was great. And that was like that took the TikTok by storm. Oh my God, how many TikToks I saw pop up with them using that. Oh man. And that's so I feel like I'm actually have to pull a trigger on this because my friend Jim, who's part of my movie club and who I do an album analysis once a month with my friend Alex with, said I need to add another show to Wasteland Talks of the song Make It the Scene.
Yeah.
And really just like spend some time to sit there and really think about how one song could really make a scene in a movie. And the thing is, I need to take a step back and really think about like, what one do I want to do first?
Yeah.
And because, you know, laundry list of Edgar Wright here, laundry list of James Gunn and Scorsese and Tarantino, and it's so easy to pick one of the four of them. But then you have things like songs written for a film like In Call Me by Your Name, or just how, and obviously like we're going to get into a score question very shortly, but like how much a particular song can make. And like the weirdest choices, like I don't know why Alabama song, a whiskey bar, makes me laugh so hard watching The World's End. But Edgar Wright just knows how to pick a damn song. And
from this year, The Batman feels like entirely based around one Nirvana theme.
Right? That and the most ominous march possible. And I laughed so hard because I found TikTok because somebody put the dun dun dun, and it's just like dimly lit camera zooming in on a cat standing at the top of the stairs, and then the cat just like turns to look at the camera as it hits, and I'm just like, dramatic. But yeah, that's it. Like, you know, I could talk for hours about Matt Reeves' The Batman because it's still one of my top 5 favorite films of the year. But like, man, the music there. But now, Nash, you're gonna take some time. You're gonna sit down and listen to a score. What score are you picking?
Yeah, this is the most vanilla question, and I do this a lot. I work from home. I sit and I do a lot of computer-based work, and I want something on in the background. But sometimes words are distracting, so I can't like watch something or have something playing in the background all the time. So it'll be a movie score. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this on your show before, but the magic of score, whether or not it's video game score, whether or not it's movie score, is that the intention is it's supposed to help you kind of progress along. Like that's the intention of the score, like particularly like a video game score. It's supposed to be something that isn't necessarily at the forefront of your mind. Like that's the score, but it needs to like kind of drive you along to want to keep going. And that's what score does a lot. So I like, that's what I use film scores and video game scores for. But my most vanilla answer of all is any / all of the Lord of the Rings. It's probably like I will listen to John Williams and I will listen to why is his name escaping me? He just The Lion King and Dark Knight and
Hans Zimmer.
I'll listen to them too, but like there's something just about that score being an adventure score that drives you along, and then when you know it so well, you know the movie so well, you know the scenes it's tied to it paces you. Like you're like, okay, they're on it, they're walking the mountains, they're going through Moria, they're and yeah, it's like I said, it's the layup answer, but I think it's my favorite movie score of all time. And I can't give I can give a fun answer, but like I gotta give the GOAT. I gotta give it.
Hey, I can't disagree with you. I've been trying to make some more playlists because like not gonna lie, I've been listening to a lot of the same music lately, and my wife's just like, I appreciate your taste in music, but like, can you listen to something different? Mm-hmm. So I've been making a bunch of playlists, and I made a score one, and like I have the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, and I'm just like, we're driving, and I'm just like, and this is where they tossed Gimli, and this is where, and it's just like, the whole thing after a while. And there's just something so dynamic and textured and layered and just rich about Howard Shore's scores, because on some level, it doesn't even just sound like a score. It's like, I don't know, it just feels different. Yeah. And like listening to like the I forget what the track is, the it's like the Manor of Hobbits or whatever, and just like going through the Shire, and just like just feels so much more than just a score to me. And it's so deeply, profoundly ingrained into my brain and my existence at this point that it just elicits such a reaction at this point, and just love it.
Yeah.
But now, for the last big question, Nash, what do you wish movies would stop doing?
Oh man. This is the one that my list of these are miles long. And I, as a follower of your channel and listen to your stuff, I like to try to give some somewhat original answers. So I didn't want to give
stop remaking everything.
Yeah. Well, it's just also just like third act conflict is tired, because I watched a lot of, I'm talking like a lot of the movies that come out that are like the average movie, that like 3.5 stars are pretty good. So many of them have that, like that's the same, that kind of, but that one beat that you're like, oh, this is dumb. But I kind of wanted to back off a little bit. One that is specific to the content that the movies that I watch a lot. I watch a lot of, because I just have an affinity for it, which is very funny because it's the opposite of what my real life looks like. I watch a lot of movies kind of based around romance. Mm-hmm. And either whether or not it's romantic comedies or whether or not it's just an action movie with romance in it or a romantic drama or whatever. And I would love if movies leaned into being either like sadder about the romance, or ambiguous about the romance. The cliche that people have to kind of end up together is like this like nice buttoned up rose on the end of a movie, which sometimes is good. Like I'm thinking like, oh, you have like a When Harry Met Sally, and it's like, yeah, this is a triumphant moment, or Sleepless in Seattle, like yay, like you can get, but and so it's kind of tough because it doesn't totally answer your question, because I don't necessarily want them to do away with that, but it's sometimes it feels like they're forcing two characters together, because it's like, oh, you are the male lead and you are the female lead, and you have to find some sort of attraction to each other that is more than just you being drawn together as human beings, as like maybe friends or whatever. And occasionally when a movie transcends that kind of that relatively simple idea that these two people need to just get together at the end of the movie, where they decide to either, where they recognize, oh, this is a really great example. You know the movie Begin Again?
I know of it. I haven't watched it yet.
It has Mark Ruffalo, Catherine Keener, Haley Steinfeld, Keira Knightley. And Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo spend a lot of the time of the movie together. And there's some ambiguous moments of, is there an attraction here? And I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil this movie for you. It came out in 2013. I apologize. They don't end up together. Like you recognize, they recognize, and I don't know if there was ever, and if there was any doubt that that was not going to happen, but it was like so comforting that these two people respect each other. They're very close friends. And I was like, hell yeah. A lesser movie would have made you two have some sort of romance, and you didn't. I also love ambiguous love endings, where there's like a shot, some like maybe a small smirk, and then the cuts to black or whatever. Those are beautiful. And so I didn't totally answer your question, but I would love if people toned the dial down on you two leads have to fall in love with each other by the end of this movie. You don't have to.
I think it answers the question. You wish Hollywood stopped forcing the romance at the end.
Actually, this came up. Did you see the movie Ticket to Paradise that came out this year with Julia Roberts and George Clooney? I thought it was a fun, delightful little movie, but I legitimately thought, I was like, you know what? This movie would be better if these two realized that they can be cordial with one another and be good parents and be friends and not end up together.
I think that would, so like, just from a thematic standpoint, I think that's a more important message to make in a movie than like, oh, we hate each other's guts now, but we really love each other. Yeah. And it's like, because like that crap's every Hallmark and Netflix Christmas romantic comedy ever.
Yes. And I watched them all. And so I get
it's every single one of them. It's just like, we hate each other. We are nothing alike. And then it's just like, oh, but we love each other. I get that 100%. And I still really enjoyed Ticket to Paradise. That was so much fun.
Oh, so did I.
That is how movie stars can sell a movie. Because I could just watch Julia Roberts and George Clooney together on screen for however the hell long and have a good time. And the two of them were great. But I 100% get that. And with Begin Again, that's because I trust John Carney.
There you go. I forgot that was John Carney. You need to watch. Yeah.
He knows, because like I love Once, I love Sing Street. And, you know, he knows when to pull the trigger and when not to.
And I'm not here to truly disparage, but it's maybe the best use of James Corden in a movie ever. I'm serious. He's a very side character, but
to be fair, not a high bar you're setting there.
No, but he's legit. It's legitimately a watchable, and I'm like, this is an earnest and fun performance from James Corden. It was before he popped off, so I was like, yeah.
I feel like the most bearable I've experienced him is probably in Into the Woods. And that's only because it's like how many other people that movie. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying he's likable, because like it's debatable who's actually he should be liking in that musical. It's a Sondheim. It's not like everybody's a likable group of people here. I do have to say though, that one, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but my God, Chris Pine, what a talent.
Chris Pine steals the damn movie.
Singing that Agony, one of my favorite songs in a musical, and my God, he kills it. And him as a bard in the new Dungeons and Dragons movie is going to be amazing, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Somebody sent me that trailer and was like, "This looks so bad," and I was like, "You know what? It does look cheesy and kind of, but Chris Pine looks like he's jumping into this ridiculous role, and he's gonna kill it." Like,
and Hugh Grant's gonna show up. If he could Phoenix Buchanan this and just like have the most delightfully campy experience, that's the thing. I don't need an uber serious D&D movie. Make this stupid. Make this as stupid as when I try to DM with my friends and my brother. How stupid they all act.
How do you, man? We can get off on so many tangents, but I'm going to ask you this question: how do you feel about the World of Warcraft movie?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
The thing is, like, I never was into WoW.
Neither was I.
The only media that I really experienced about WoW was the South Park episode of World of Warcraft, which is hilarious and one of the best episodes of South Park. Oh man, I laughed so hard with that. It's mad. I need to go to the bathroom. It's going to absolutely destroy the world of Warcraft. But I will check it out. Like,
I bring that up because that is honestly, I'm like, that's kind of where I want Dungeons and Dragons to land, where people who know Warcraft I think really enjoy that movie. I was like, this is fine. I'm confused, but this is fine. I was just like, if they made a movie that was for people who liked and played Dungeons and Dragons, which is a lot of people, whether or not they want to tell people or not, I think that's perfect. That's all they need to do. I don't think they need to try to draw in all these other people. I just think you make a good Dungeons and Dragons movie for the fans of Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to have
one of the things that I'm most excited about going back to MagFest in January is the pickup games of D&D that they do, because I haven't played in a while and I want to have some fun, get my dice ready. But Nash, how I like to wrap up this show is let my guests ask me a question. So what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer besides what I thought about the Warcraft movie?
Yeah. Let's not end on that. Okay. All right. For some reason, I spent so much time working on my other answers that I didn't prepare this one. So,
why it's the wild card.
Yep. Let me see. Let's try to. All right. Can you think of any moments in movies where you were like, we were talking about music a lot, so I'll tie back into that. Where the use of a song or the use of a score actively detracted from the movie you were watching.
Hallelujah in The Watchmen.
Oh, that's the best answer.
I did not need Leonard Cohen crooning out Hallelujah to a very obvious climax in the middle of a sex scene. And then if Zack Snyder wasn't blunt enough with it on that one, was when the damn ship shoots flames out of the front of it. Here's the thing. I probably love Watchmen, the movie, more than a decent chunk of people.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think it's one of Zack Snyder's best movies. And like I get, because like I read the book too, and I really love the book, The Watchmen. Did they make them too OP? Like these are just supposed to be regular people, and like they're taking kicks from Ozymandias and all kinds of stuff, and not dying. Uh, but like, yeah, they built that up a little too much. But like, and they made some changes. Obviously, they got rid of giant squid, and which like I didn't really have a problem with. Like, I feel like the change they made a lot of sense. But God, why? Why did that make any sense? Like, I want to know what was going on in Zack Snyder's head when he thought that was a good idea.
See, I don't want to know what's going on in Zack Snyder's head ever.
That was just like, no.
You say that about that movie and Zack Snyder, and my immediately response was, it's almost like a little bit of a James Corden of directors, where I feel like the bar is sometimes a little low. Like, I'm not truly a Zack Snyder hater, but I lump him in with like, you would be a great cinematographer. Maybe you should step away from the direction.
Well, and that's the thing, because like I might get a lot of people mad at me for saying this, but like I put him in the same boat as Michael Bay.
Yep. So no, they occupy the same space in my mind.
Yeah, it's just like there's certain things you do really well, and it's very obvious I'm watching one of your movies. But like only a couple of them actually like click for me. Like the Michael Bay movie that clicks the most with me is Armageddon, because that movie is just so stupid. But like I have so much fun with it.
Yeah.
It knows it's so stupid. And even when it's being overly self-serious, I really think in the back of its head, it knows how dumb it's being.
Okay. When you have Steven Tyler write a song about Ben Affleck
exactly
banging his daughter, I feel like you know what you're doing.
Oh, can I add that one on too? God, the overuse of Aerosmith. Like, there's certain points, like the song at the end, "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing," fits perfect. Like, that's just chef's kiss of campy ridiculousness. That just hits every chord that Michael Bay's trying to hit at the end of that movie. But that part, Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler, I'm just like.
For reference, what inspired that question was that I'm assuming you watched the movie Cruella.
Yeah.
I really, not only do I not really like that movie, it felt like every like 2 minutes there was a needle drop to like, hey, this takes place in the 70s. And I was like, oh my God, the soundtrack is beating you over the head. And it's like, I can Tina Turner. And it's just like, oh my God, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. And it's just, that's like it's like an example of like the opposite of a Tarantino, where he's so like effortlessly like weaves in
cool. And because the thing is, like, if you say that you can name half the songs in a Tarantino movie before looking it up for the first time, probably gonna call you a liar.
Yeah, you're either a liar or a musical historian.
Yeah, and so like he picks certain songs that just fit. And like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm a big Paul Revere and the Raiders fan now.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to so many Kicks and like so many of those songs from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood now. Oh, they were all over my Wrapped last year. But like you have to Edgar Wright it. Like 2/3 of the songs he picks, you've probably never heard of. But like with a sprinkling of some that you have, but they all fit. And like Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Specifically Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad. It's just like Sympathy for the Devil, Bohemian Rhapsody, and just like
anytime Fortunate Son is used in a movie about the war.
And it's not Forrest Gump. No.
Yeah.
The only time they should have retired that after Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump has the rights to play Fortunate Son during a Vietnam scene, and no other movie should ever again.
I'm also a Kong Skull Island hater. I really don't like that movie, but that movie has a couple of those like, this is a war movie, a movie trying to. I'm like, yeah. So there's a lot of examples. We just talked a lot about movie music, so I figured we'd end it on.
Fitting. Yeah, Hallelujah.
I mean, that I would say you haven't. That slipped my mind, but that is the best answer. Like that is the single use worst use, not only because of the scene and everything, but it's because you're talking about. If people are going to create a Mount Rushmore of songs, it's maybe one of the greatest songs of all time.
It's so distasteful. Like, it just like makes no sense to me.
It's like this emotional
Leonard Cohen. Come on.
Oh, man.
So the last thing I'm going to say about it before we wrap up, I know when I watched that most recent Leonard Cohen documentary, the first thing that I thought of, wow, Hallelujah, this is an amazing song. I'm definitely going to have this set to a sex scene between two latex wearing superheroes inside a giant plane shaped like an owl. And when they climax, I'm going to shoot a flamethrower out in the clouds.
I mean, it's so galaxy brain that I can't even comprehend.
And on that note, Nash, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Go out with a bang, literally.
Flamethrowers out at all you. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.